Jane Koshi, or better known as Hunter J, could barely comprehend how she got herself in the situation that she is in right now. Ever since the day she became a poacher, Jane's life became somewhat simple. Client contacts her, steal the Pokemon or Pokemons that they want, hurt everyone in her path, kill them if necessary, and then get paid, hurt client if they screw her. That was Jane's life, and it was manageable and bearable. And it all changed the day she met the brat that literally turned her life upside down. Ashura Satoshi Ketchum. Better known as Ash Ketchum. The lover of her favorite sister, the person that she and her other younger sister admire in one form or another. At first, Jane thought that the brat was nothing more than a run-of-the-mill trainer that idolizes fanboy her little sister Sarah. Jane expected that he will not amount to anything. Then, after multiple alterations between them, Jane's opinion of him changed. Jane now thought that he was an above-average, run-of-the-mill trainer born to be the bane of her existence. And that will not do. Hunter J does not tolerate nuisances or irritancies. Killing is a necessity in her line of work. Jane had killed before, she had killed many times, and she knew that she would kill again. Killing came with her job after all. Jane would normally avoid killing people, but Ash had pushed her limits to the breaking point. 3 failed jobs due to his interference had cost her time, resources, and money, and that did not bode well with her. Jane, after their second run-in, had decided to do away with the nuisance permanently. After all, it was apparent that the boy would always be a thorn on her side whenever they meet. Jane believes that thorns should be removed immediately to avoid further annoyance. With that in mind, Jane continued with her life, hoping and wishing that she and Ash would never again cross paths. After all, brave kids these days were rare, and Jane at least respects Ash's courage. No child or man had the balls to stand up to her in a long time. Unfortunately, though, she took a job from Team Galactic and her life was shot to hell after that. Actually, her life was already shot to hell, this was merely another nail in her coffin. The mission required her to capture the Lake Trios, and the payment promised to her was 7 digits. Jane oftentimes avoids jobs that would require her to poach legendary Pokémons. Jane grew up with archaeologists, scientists, and Jane would not admit this even in her deathbed or the threat of death, a little sister that was a remarkable genius that was knowledgeable in all forms of science. Jane knew that legendary Pokémons have responsibilities in maintaining the balance of the world. Her mother had told this to her, his surrogate father had repeatedly told this to her, and even her sisters had told her to avoid messing with legendary Pokémons, for both her safety and the world. Being around scholars in most of her childhood, Jane knew the importance of balance in the world. Regardless though, 7-digit paying jobs are difficult to get by. A poacher of reputation and skill, she was always paid well for all the jobs that she took, but she had only gotten a handful of 7-digit paying jobs. Weighing her options, both the risk and rewards, Jane took the job, though she prayed that this would not cause any lasting backlash. With the use of her salamence, she was able to take down the Lake Trio one at a time. Jane might not be a Pokémon Master, but she has the skill of one. After all, she was related to the youngest Pokémon Master in the world, and Sarah had never beaten her before. And if she can survive Sarah's over-the-top and practically ruthless strategies in a Pokémon battle, then taking down the Lake Trio was a piece of cake. It was a piece of cake. The Lake Trios were strong, but Jane was smarter, and her salamence was comparable and superior to them in strength and power. As per her practice, the moment she procured the Lake Trio, she was to transfer them to her client and then accept payment, by hand and cash only. That did not happen, as the boy that had earned her ire and respect, anyone who had the balls to face her as he did deserve nothing less, intercepted her with a vengeance. The difference between their past meetings and this one though was that he was actually and pretty serious in the particular meeting of theirs. Serious as in, I would kill you, serious. Jane had never believed in auras or in aura guardians. She remembered all the stories and fairy tales that their mother told them, she, Sarah, and Elena, about aura guardians when she was still alive, when the 3 girls were still young and innocent. Jane and Sarah enjoyed those stories but did not believe in them, unlike Elena, who believed in the existence of aura guardians. Psychic powers in human beings had been proven. Humans using aura as a weapon for destruction has not. Therefore, Jane was legitimately shocked and somewhat terrified when Ash Ketchum, someone that she loathes and respect, a person that she decided to kill at their next meeting, came at her with orbs of destruction at hand, his entire body brimming with unspeakable power, crystal ominously shining around him. That night, Jane was given a beating of a lifetime. Jane hated Ash for that, but at the same time, her respect and admiration for him increase at the display of his power. Jane had always liked power, she relishes power, and the power that he displayed that night left her in awe. What followed afterwards, though, Jane would rather bury deep within her mind. Scene change. Jane always thought that aura guardians were nothing more than myths, fictions made by their ancestors, a figment of imagination of those who lived before them. She never thought that they truly existed and still existing. Or that she would become one. This place is good enough, Ash announced as he led her to a place rich of life and greenery. Shall we start? Ash inquired while gazing on the elder sister of his lover, the eldest of the Koshi siblings. Jane looked at Ash very intently for a moment. You are hoping that I am Elena right now, don't you? Jane wanted for her and for her sister's lover to coexist for more than one reason, but the most important being was that Ash held the heart of his favorite sibling and that he currently has her life in his hands. There was no point denying that fact. Yes. His answer was brutally honest that Jane appreciated it regardless of her jealousy. Still, I can't change anything about Elena, nor would I want to. She's perfect just the way she is. Elena was not born with any chance of being an aura guardian. The eldest will always have the highest aura and potential to harness the aura. That can never change. There was frustration in his voice. It was so tangible that Jane felt like she could touch it. Elena had always been interested in aura and its lore. I would like nothing more than to teach her the secrets of aura. Unfortunately, I could not change that fact that she is incapable of harnessing her own aura. Ash sighed in aggravation as he looked at the heavens. I just hope having access to my aura is enough. Jane became red at those words, whether it is embarrassment or anger. Being around archaeologists in her childhood, she was familiar with several legends and myths. I don't want to hear you and my sister consummating. Our sex life is between the two of us, Ash stated seriously. I don't want to hear it in the first place, Jane pointed out in a grumble. Shall we start? Pikachu, get down. The little yellow powerhouse dropped to the ground as Ash motioned for Jane to come to him. There are 7 basic steps the one must cover to access one's aura. First step, you need to feel the aura around you and within you. Ash explained as Jane walked beside him. Aura is the manifestation of our soul. It bears our burdens and shields our hearts. Jane looked at Ash, and in her eyes, Ash suddenly became older as he continued with his explanation. All has aura, but only a handful can use aura as a tool, at least with enough practice and training. Each being has a unique aura. Aura is unique. One person will have a unique aura of his own. One aura can resemble another, but no two individuals will have an identical aura. Ash then put a hand on Jane's shoulders. Have you ever meditated before? Ash inquired with a look that demands nothing but honesty. I haven't, Jane answered, and she suddenly yet softly forced to the ground. You will learn to meditate now, Ash said, ignoring and discarding the harsh look that Jane was giving him. Aura is everywhere. Everything that has life has aura. Before you could draw and use your own aura, you must feel, sense the aura around you. Ash closed his eyes before taking a deep breath. This place is filled with so much life. The aura in this place is overflowing. Even a novice like you can feel the aura in this area. I don't actually, Jana said while looking at Ash confusedly. Ash merely looked at her intently. Start meditating, Ash ordered sternly. Close your eyes, empty your mind. Don't think but feel. Expand your senses as far as you can, Ash instructed as he sat down in front of Jane. Start meditating. Jane gave Ash a confused look one more time before obeying. Closing her eyes, she meditated for the first time. Jane did not have any interest in aura when she was a child and even when she was growing up. That is why she's still trying to wrap her mind in her being trained to be an Aura Guardian. It was surreal for the former Pokemon poacher. Scene changed, Jane POV. I don't know whether this was a dream or not, but for the first time in my life, I could hear. I could hear and feel in perfect clarity. I can feel and hear the subtle changes in the atmosphere as well as the vibration of each fine strand sprinkling down, the sound of rain, it is raining outside. And these bigger vibrations, they're coming, a roaring sound, a herd of Pokemons. Footsteps, small steps, a child, running. Seriously, isn't he super annoying? A voice, the sound of laughter, a chat between women. A yell, never mind, it's just the sound of a flying type Pokemon screeching. Superb. I have never heard things so clearly in my life before. Even in my dreams, things are not this clear. Simply superb. Wake up. A voice called out for me. Unlike the other sounds that I have been hearing, this one was soft, yet the power behind it was clear as day. Scene change. Ash's entire focus was on Jane. He felt slightly dirty, but the voice of his lover, Elena, whispered words of understanding and forgiveness in his ear, and that made him feel a bit better. Having their souls connected was a blessing for both of them. In retrospect, Jane was the second woman that had ever garnered a semblance of interest from him. In Ash's eyes, Hunter J was an anomaly, an intriguing anomaly. Since the day Ash learned how to sense and read aura, he had developed a habit to base his opinion of those he meet from the way their auras made him feel. Ash, since becoming an aura prince, have seen many evils and had put those as many evils that he had encountered. Ash is an aura prince, putting down evil as part of his responsibilities to the world. From the evils that Ash have seen, they have one thing in common, and that is their aura being foul and dark, with some even having malicious aura that makes him have the urge to vomit. Ash knew that if he senses that kind of aura on anyone, he has to put that person down. Which makes Jane's case that more intriguing. The day Ash laid eyes on Jane, he became aware of many things about her. Ash became aware of the many sins that she had committed, the lives that she had ruined, and the lives that she had took. Ash also became aware of the nightmares that Jane experiences every time she closes her eyes. Jane baffled Ash because her aura was heavily tainted. It was dark and foul, but not to an extent that she could be considered evil. This confuses Ash because he had seen men and women becoming evil by committing a quarter of the atrocities that Jane had committed. Hunter J was the first being that Ash had ever considered as an anomaly. His curiosity, though, was answered when he was informed of her relationship with his lover. Ash was still kicking himself for not seeing the resemblance of Jane's aura to Elena's aura. In his defense, the most innocent and purest aura that he had ever felt belonged to Elena, and Sarah's aura was somewhat resembling her little sister, but not to that degree. Jane's aura was heavily tainted and corrupt, not that much for Ash to label her evil, but she was close, as in a millimeter close. Discovering the connection of Elena and Jane, Ash was able to connect the dots on why Jane's aura is so abnormal. Ash had never shown much interest in Elena's family, and vice versa, because of how secretive they are in their relationship. The two, oftentimes, avoid speaking about their family when they are in each other's company. Still, Ash knew the basics about Elena's family life. Ash knew that Elena's father left her and her sisters when she was extremely young, her mother dying from some sickness, and that her sister had to partake a questionable job to sustain their broken family. That alone prompted Ash to make it his job to give Jane a new and better job. After all, in Ash's mind, he owes Jane more than he could ever repay her. Because of Jane, Elena was able to grow into the woman that he loves. That alone earned Jane Ash's eternal respect and gratitude. That is why Ash offered her the chance to become an Aura Guardian, and he was determined to make her an Aura Guardian, both as her repentance and a way for her to get a new, better life. Looking at Jane, who was meditating, Ash smiled a bit. Her aura, though tainted and corrupted, reeks of power. Ash knew that he could make Jane into a great and outstanding Aura Guardian easily. Scene change. Wake up, Ash called at the first sight of the sun rising over the horizon. It took Jane a moment, her eyes, only for her to cover it with one hand as the light of the sun blinded her. What time is it? Jane asked with a rough voice. 5:48 a.m. Ash informed her while generating an aura sphere in his right hand. You meditated for at least 8 hours. That long. Jane breathed, the feeling of exhaustion suddenly dawning upon her. That long, and for the record, you made great progress. Ash told her before pushing the aura sphere at her direction. Your exhaustion is understandable. You might not know this, but in the 8 hours, you were able to use the full capacity of your senses, so much that you felt aura. Jane could only look at Ash in confusion before noticing the aura sphere in his hand. Jane suddenly skidded backwards. She knew, firsthand, that an aura sphere in Ash's hand is equivalent to that of a ballistic missile, or a hyperbeam from a very well-trained Pokémon. Seeing her reaction, Ash rolled his eyes. If I want to blow you to Kingdom Come, I would have done so the first time we met. We've already been through this. I won't kill you. Elena would be sad if I did, and it would be a waste. Ash stated firmly before throwing the aura sphere at Jane. Due to reflex, Jane shielded herself with her arms. It was useless as the aura sphere hit her dead center. Still, instead of obliterating her, the aura sphere melted through her body and her exhaustion disappeared entirely. This surprised Jane. One of the basic ability of an aura guardian is the ability to give aura to those with a soul for healing and for replenishing energy. I'm an aura prince. That kind of basic ability is like breathing to me. Ash spoke with an uninterested tone, as if what he was saying was nothing more than fact that cannot be changed. Now, let's return to camp. I don't like leaving Maria with anyone with flesh. Jane shivered slightly as she remembered the figure that Ash summoned from his body. The woman who appeared to be made of glass resembled her little sister too close for her comfort. What was that thing again? Jane asked as she rose from her feet. Maria is a manifestation of my emotions through moonlight. Ash answered with a shrug. Have you heard of the folklore Bloody Mary? Well, Maria is my personal Bloody Mary. Does your Bloody Mary screams at people, cursing them, strangling them, stealing their soul, drinking their blood, or scratching their eyes out? Jane asked jokingly. Maria does everything except soul stealing and blood drinking. Ash answered seriously. Why in the hell should she drink blood or steal souls? Maria prefers moonlight or electricity. Ash added in defense of his killing partner. Jane could only stare at Ash after hearing that. I was joking. And I was being serious. Ash replied with a serious expression. I am an aura prince. Everything relating to aura, I take seriously. It comes with the territory. That must have sucked, Jane commented, noticing a shift in Ash's eyes. At first, yes, it did suck. Ash confirmed as Pikachu jumped on his shoulders. But I'm an aura prince. I am the first only person in several generations capable of becoming an aura prince. If I won't embrace the responsibility of becoming one, no one else will. Jane was slightly taken aback at the look of resignation in Ash's eyes and was baffled when she saw him smiling and chuckling. Don't worry, Elena, you will forever be my priority. This world can burn for all I care. Those random words were released from Ash's lips, something that terrified Jane. She had never heard Ash speak with a tone so dark before. We should be returning now. Ash snapped his fingers and a large mirror appeared in front of him. I don't like casting illusions on my friends. Ash then walked into the mirror. There was a rippling effect on the surface of the mirror as Ash walked into it. Jane looked at the scene that transpired before her with eyes of disbelief and shocked, which further increased when she glanced at the surface of the mirror. The clearing where their little group had set up camp was displayed as clear as day. Ash was walking around the slumbering forms of his friends while his Bloody Mary, Maria, sat in the center, playing a violin that seemingly resembled a sword. Come now, Jane, I will not wake them as long as you're not here. The voice of Ash echoed in her ears. Jane decided that anything involving aura was just plain weird. Scene change. Jane, even when she was young, had never been the most sociable individual. She got along with Neil well, but that was because they grew up together in the same island and they were involved with very shady people as they grew up. Fortunately though, Neil was able to distance himself from all illegal activities as he grew up. Jane, not so much. She got along well with her sisters, though it was Elena whom she was closest to. Jane loved Sarah as well, but the animosity between them was just too deep for the two to be fully comfortable with each other. Truthfully, being a poacher did not do well for her social skills. That's why it was no surprise that she had positioned herself as far away as possible from the entourage that she was currently traveling with as they hit the road. Jane knew that she would not be able to get along with any of them. Except for Ash, of course, but that was due to an agreement. Jane could list the number of reasons why she will not be able to get along with the group. The first and the most glaring reason, she had tried to kill almost half of the group, which includes Ash and Cynthia. Jane winced a bit as she remembered some of her run-ins with the infamous SHINO champion. Those meetings were not pleasant at all. The strongest champion was as ruthless as she is after all. Second reason why she won't fit in with the group is quite simple. It is hard to be civilized with a group that practically curses the birth of her youngest sister. Jane glared at the three girls that was the traveling companion of her little sister's lover. For the life of her, Jane wanted to hurt them. They were idiots in her opinion. Jane could see the want and even lust in their eyes as they looked at Ash. It was clear as day, those girls loved Ash the same way Ash loved Elena. Those girls want to have a relationship with Ash. But Ash doesn't want them. And there lies the problem that those three girls are facing, a problem that could have been remedied if those two girls, Misty and May, would have made their move before Ash met Elena. Especially that Misty girl. Jane glared at the orange-haired girl for a bit. She traveled with the brat for the longest. Hard to believe that she didn't make a move. Still trying to prevent Ash from cheating. Jane almost jumped back when the voice of the current SHINO champion reached her ears. Composing herself, Jane spared the blonde woman a neutral glance. I trust the kid to be faithful. Jane told Cynthia calmly. But I don't trust them. Jane motioned towards Misty, May, and Dawn. Cynthia spared the three girls pitying looks. Those poor girls. That's their own fault. Jane, on the other hand, did not give them any pity. They knew the brat longer than my sister. The fact that they cannot grow a spine and confess to him when he was available is their own mistake. Confessing one's feelings to the one that they love is difficult for any girl. Cynthia stated with a knowing tone. Jane looked at her in the corner of her eye. Funny. I thought that you could get anyone that you like with a snap of a finger. Cynthia chuckled at this. If he wasn't taken, I'll probably be making a move right now. Cynthia's eyes lingered on Ash, much to Jane's aggravation. Try and believe me, the SHINO League will require a new champion after I'm through with you. Jane growled at Cynthia. Strangely, Cynthia did not look threatened. In fact, the SHINO champion looked amused. You are eyeing him too, with the same eyes as I and Sarah looks at him. Jane growled once again before letting out a sigh. The kid would have make a perfect lover. There was no point of denying her interest in him. But Elena owns him, and I love my little sister too much to actually try and attempt to steal him away. Regardless of how tempting it is. Scene change. What the hell's your problem? Jane and Sarah had not gotten along since Jane became a poacher. When their mother died, Jane single-handedly supported her two sisters until Adon and Natasha recovered from their depression. Sarah was eternally grateful for this, but she did not like being sustained by blood money. That was the cause of their relationship being strained to the point of no return. And the two siblings did not make any steps of repairing their broken relationship. Currently, Jane had dragged Sarah from the group before harshly throwing her to a tree. Jane pinned her sister on the tree and the two automatically glared at each other. Have you no shame? Jane growled at Sarah, teeth gritting loudly. That is our sister's boyfriend you're flirting with. It was painful, very, very painful to watch Sarah cling and coo on Ash. It was also disgusting. Jane knew that Ash would never make a move that would upset Elena, in any way, shape, or form. In a way, that is Ash's hubris. He loved Elena so much that he refuses to do anything that has any chance of upsetting her. That kind of devotion to a lover is both endearing and dangerous. Jane could see the discomfort in Ash's eyes as Sarah clung on his arms, as the young genius pressed her body on him, and as she tried to be sultry with him. Of course, tried his best to refute Sarah's advance, succeeding at most times, but the researcher was very persistent. So persistent that Jane had to step in and lay down the law on Sarah, for the sake of all three of them. After all, Jane knew that Ash and Elena could communicate mentally even through a distance, another weird phenomena caused by aura. Jane does not need access to any aura abilities to know that Elena was not pleased with how Sarah is acting around her lover. Several hundred miles from their location, Adon was wondering why Elena looked ready to commit genocide while Natasha was having some sort of laughing fit. I am quite aware of that, Jane. Sarah casually removed the hand that was pinning her on the tree. I am doing my best to have Ash warmed up to the idea of having me as a mistress. Jane suddenly became enraged at that statement. Are you listening to yourself? Jane asked, aggravation and frustration clear in her voice. Ash ain't interested in you or anyone else aside from Elena. I hope you're smart enough to know that Ash only has eyes on Elena, our little sister. Jane pointed out angrily. Sarah remained calm in front of her elder sister's tirade. I am aware of that, and that is precisely why I can get away with what I am doing. Sarah stated with a small smile. Looking back, I doubt Ash and our dear little sister got together just days ago. I think they've been going out for a while now and just kept everyone in the dark about their relationship. I could respect that. I am even proud of Elena for having such a wonderful boyfriend, and I trust Ash with her. So why are you trying to seduce him? 'Cause I have no choice. Sarah answered with a straight face. I like Ash, though not yet at the level of Elena's feelings, but I can see myself falling head over heels in love with him. Ash is the only one that I can see myself falling in love with. Jane rolled her eyes at that statement. You're 18, Sarah, you're too young to talk about love or to even understand it. Sarah laughed at those words. And Elena isn't. Elena has him, and that guy is a damn perfect lover. Extremely faithful and loving, willing to do anything for his beloved, Ash was the ideal lover of any woman. And that's the reason why I want him. Sarah stated, which made Jane narrow her eyes at her. You're willing to steal our sister's boyfriend? Jane asked incredulously. That's low. I don't want to steal him. I don't want to steal anyone. I just want him. Sarah defended herself strongly. Look, Elena loves us and we love Elena. The three of us used to share everything together. Belongings and secrets, the three of us share everything together. Sharing a single boyfriend isn't that much of a stretch. It'll make an interesting sex life for all of us, and we are, somewhat, attracted to each other. Jane blushed slightly, remembering some part of their childhood that was better of forgotten. In addition, you don't have the right to preach to me. You interested in him too? Sarah said while gently pushing Jane away from him. I see the way you look at him. It is the same way I look at him. That's true, there was no point denying her attraction towards Elena's lover. But I won't do anything that would compromise the relationship of our little sister and her lover. I like Ash, I might probably love him, but I love Elena more, and hurting her would just be wrong. We won't be hurting her. Sarah whispered quietly, but Jane could still clearly hear her. Look, Elena wants us to be a family again. A family like the one we had when Mama was still alive. We cannot have that, but with Ash and Elena in the center, we can have that kind of family. Yes, Elena would be angry at first, she might not understand, but she will in time. After all, we will be a family again, one husband, 3 wives, many children. It's a win-win. Jane was silent for a moment as she stared at her sister in the eye. You are desperate, Jane said lowly. Sarah could only smile at those words. Elena has always been the perfect woman. Beauty, smarts, everything, she's been perfect or close to perfect. Now, she has the perfect lover. Sarah's jubilant expression changed slightly. She has everything, I just want to have a share in that perfection that she has. Scene change. Similar to last night, Ash and Jane met up in a place with heavy forestry for Jane's aura training. You spoke with Sarah earlier on. Ash began while prompting Jane to get into a meditative position. Should I be worried? Family matters, you don't have to care. Jane stated bluntly. Ash knew that Jane was lying, but ignored it for now. As long as his relationship with Elena won't be compromised and as long as there won't be harm caused towards Elena, then he doesn't care. Let's continue what we left of last night. Ash stated with a serious look in his eyes. I want you to focus, and then remember the feeling that you felt last night. I want you to recall the feeling that you had last night. Jane obeyed. Closing her eyes, she remembered the state that she were in when she heard everything, even to the littlest of detail. In a matter of minutes, she could hear it again. The sound of the wind moving. The sound of Pokémon's moving. The sound of hearts beating. She could hear everything. Open your eyes. The powerful voice once again echoed in her eyes. Open your eyes, but do not forget the sensation that you are feeling right now. Cling to that sensation. The voice was so commanding that Jane obeyed without question. Jane slowly opened her eyes, doing her best to remember the sensation that she was experiencing. When she opened her eyes, she almost grasped at the many colors that she was seeing. So many colors. Red, blue, yellow, and many other colors that Jane could and couldn't identify. You can see colors, right? Ash asked with a proud smile. Those colors, they are aura. Aura has many forms, it has many shapes, it is infinite. The colors that you're seeing right now represents that aura of this world. Ash raised both of his hands as Jane looked at him. If Ash said was true, then the blue and white color that clings to him was his own aura. If it is, Jane further feared Ash. The amount of aura that surrounds him gave him the appearance of a sun, a blazing sun. There are two auras that an aura guardian could use. An aura sphere formed in Ash's hand, and Jane could see the process in how it was formed. Aura poured out from his body and flowed towards the palm of his hand. First, the aura within you called natural aura. Another aura sphere formed into Ash's other hand, but this one was different. Instead of his aura pouring out, the aura around him seemed to gather on his other hand, forming an aura sphere. Second, nature's aura, the aura that this world has. Each aura has its strengths, uses, and weaknesses, and they can be combined to form a reinforced aura. Ash then brought the two aura spheres together. Jane watched in fascination as the two auras melded together. It did not change in size, but the aura sphere suddenly got a crystal-like appearance. Ash then threw the aura sphere up in the air. When it exploded, it flooded the sky with so many colors that Jane was almost blinded. Covering her eyes from the orchestra of lights, Jane gave Ash a look. Is that what I'm going to do next? The excitement of Jane's voice was clear to Ash. No, not yet. So when Ash answered negatively, her excitement died down. You need to access your natural aura, and after that, you need to learn how to harness nature aura, and only then I'll teach you how to form an aura sphere. Ash then summoned a mirror in front of Jane. Now, I want you to meditate. Ash told her as he stepped behind Jane. But the way you meditate now must be different from how you did it last night. I don't want you to expand your senses, I want you to focus merely on your reflection. Don't look at anything, just look at your reflection. Ash instructed her. Jane, again, looked at Ash strangely before nodding. Taking a deep breath, Jane meditated, eyes fixed on the mirror in front of her. Scene change. Elena understood many things about aura. After all, she specializes in the historical study of aura. She earned her diploma due to her stellar thesis paper about aura and its application in the ancient world. That being said, she was not arrogant enough and state that she knew everything there is to know about aura. The only one who can claim that was her lover, who was a glorified aura prince, and thus has an in-depth understanding and knowledge towards aura and life itself in general. Ash becoming an aura guardian was probably a milestone in their relationship. It showed the extent of Ash's devotion towards her. Becoming something that Elena was thoroughly interested in, it was Ash's way of telling her that he would become anything for her. To this day, Elena has yet to answer that gesture with her own. Still, due to her interest in aura, she could not help but watched her sister as Ash teach her how to become an aura guardian. It was a spectacle that Elena would not miss. That being said, Elena was slightly jealous of her elder sister. Elena could remember, in great clarity, the many stories her mother told them about aura guardians, aura knights, aura sages, and aura princes in their childhood. Elena had always been wide-eyed from the tales of their exploit, of how they maintain the balance of the world. Elena had once dreamed of becoming one. Though she was technically capable of using aura now, the fact remains that she was not a true aura guardian. She was the mistress of an aura prince. The aura at her disposal belonged to her lover, and though she was blissful and ecstatic of having his aura in her veins, Elena wanted to experience using her own aura. Still, she was satisfied with the cards that she was dealt. She has no complaints. She doesn't have the right to have one. That being said, watching her sister become an aura guardian was an enlightening experience. Ash had told her the basic training that all beings with the capacity to harness aura must undergo to fully use aura. 7 steps that one must learn to fully be recognized as an aura guardian. 7 steps buried through the ages as aura guardians became nothing more than myths and legends. Watching those 7 steps take place in front of her was sight to behold. Though she wondered, how long will her sister take to complete those steps? Ash completed it under a single night. In a single night, Ash became an aura guardian. Elena wondered how long her sister would take before she becomes an aura guardian. With that in mind, she continued to watch her elder sister's training. Scene change. Jane was a bit annoyed. She was annoyed at looking at herself in front of the mirror. Jane hated mirrors, which was strange considering how beautiful she is. Okay, what am I supposed to see? Jane inquired after an hour of looking at herself in front of the mirror. Your color. Ash answered calmly. My color. Jane asked with a raised brow. Yes, your color. Ash confirmed as he circled Jane. Every single being with a soul has a unique aura. No same beings have the same aura. Siblings can have auras that resemble each other, but it could not be identical. Ash explained as he stood behind the mirror. You now have the ability to see the auras of aura guardians because they have powerful aura, but you still could not see the aura of those who cannot harness aura, and to an extent, you cannot see your very own aura. This training is designed for you to be able to see the auras of those who cannot harness aura. This is helpful because reading aura can help you determine whether someone is lying or evil, or if someone is stronger than you. Ash further elaborated. I can do that even without that power. Jane grumbled under her breath. Just meditate. Ash ordered with a sigh. I want you to know what color you are after the night is done. Jane spared Ash an irritated glance. If you already know my color, shouldn't we go to the next step? Yes, I can see your color, but the problem is, you can't. Ash pointed out, much to Jane's annoyance. With a groan, Jane glared at the mirror in front of her, which caused her to glare at herself and Ash. Seeing this, Ash chuckled. You know, you are so much like Elena. You guys both dislike looking at yourself in front of mirrors. Ash said humorously. Which is strange. Both of you are incredibly beautiful. We are not narcissistic. Jane replied dryly, though there was red marring her face. A moment of silence passed among the two before Jane shifted her gaze on Ash. Can I ask something, brat? As long as that question does not involve my relationship with Elena, shoot. How did you become an aura prince? Jane asked curiously. Ash paused for a second as he glanced at Jane. Long version or short? Long version, please. Jane had looked at her reflection for almost an hour and she needed a good distraction. The reason why I became an aura prince is because I have an obsession. What? Jane looked confused at Ash's answer. You see, aura is the force that gives everything life and power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds and connects everything together. Aura is a metaphysical, spiritual, binding, omnipotent and ubiquitous power that held enormous importance for both human beings and Pokémons. Again, Jane marveled at the fact that Ash somewhat looked wise beyond his age as he speaks about aura. Aura, in the eyes of our ancestors as well as is what holds the world in balance. Aura guardians were created for the single purpose of maintaining the balance of the world so that aura can thrive and maintain life. Aura Knights and Aura Sages are the evolution of Aura Guardians. Their job is to protect the balance from all forces who wishes to bring chaos to the balance given by Aura. At first, there is no such thing as an Aura Prince, just Knights and Sages. In the ancient days, knights and sages are the ones who protect the balance of aura. For several millenniums, that was enough, until the day those knights and sages became too arrogant with their power. Knights and sages became stiff. They created laws for themselves that alienated them from the world that aura thrives on. Some of their laws include the prohibition of taking Pokémons to be their partner, the prohibition of interacting with people that are incapable of using aura, and the kicker is the prohibition of feeling strong emotions. The knights and sages in ancient times frown upon strong emotions, whether they be positive or negative. Passion was considered dangerous, as it could lead to strong emotions that could lead to unbalance, something that is sacrilegious for the knights and sages of the ancient times. Love, curiously enough, was regarded by the knights and sages as something to be avoided. They consider love as a sin. That's load of bullshit, Jane commented. Yes, it is. Ash agreed with a nod. Now, because of those laws, knights and sages oftentimes take children who shows great aptitude for aura. This is done so they can be conditioned to become the ideal knights and sages in ancient times. I think you are smart enough to know where this will lead. Those knights and sages would be considered as threats, Jane said knowingly. Correct. Ash confirmed her answer. Powerful beings who alienate themselves, who refuse human contact, who refuse to interact with society would be viewed cautiously, and sometimes as a threat. Because of the ancient Aurarians, that by the way is a term used by our ancestors to refer to those who are capable harnessing aura, refusal to interact with other non-Aurarian beings, war broke out. Now, as you may know, Aurarians are capable of using aura. They have powers beyond the comprehension of those incapable of using it. That being said, regardless of how powerful they are still human beings, regardless of how much they abandon their humanity. Human beings, regardless of how strong, can be killed. Add to the fact that only 1 out of a million has the capacity to learn to harness aura practically gave the Aurarians and non-Aurarians a level playing field in the war. As you may know, tragedy and destruction comes hand in hand with war. Cultures were destroyed, Pokémon species and types became instincts, and trillions of people died. Even legendary Pokémons were killed during the war. The war lasted for a millennium, and during that millennium, the world became unbalanced. Because of that unbalance, 2 figures appeared to return the world to balance. The first figure is Arceus, the original one, the mother of the known universe. The second figure is the Aura Prince. Those 2 beings are the pinnacle creations of aura. Arceus, the original one, the creator of the universe, lay slumber after she created the world, awoke during the ancient war, awakened by aura. The Aura Prince, the pinnacle of aura, the strongest human being, created to equal Arceus herself. Together, they formed a duo. Before the ancient Aurarians became too arrogant, Aura Guardians, knights, and sages are required to have a partner Pokémon. That is to show the world the meaning of the world's balance. Humans and Pokémons, hand in hand, living and protecting the world. I won't go to details about the ancient war, but when Arceus and the first Aura Prince entered the war, the millennium-long war ended in a decade and everything returned to normal. That is something that Elena would love to hear, she already heard it, but that doesn't answer my question. How did you become an Aura Prince? Jane reiterated, though she put the tale that Ash shared with her to the back of her mind. The story was a tale worth remembering. The same way every Aura Knight and Sage became a prince. Ash answered as he showed his wings to Jane. There are 2 things that a knight and a sage must have to qualify to become a prince. First, the complete understanding of aura. You see, everyone who can harness aura can become an Aura Guardian, but an Aura Guardian cannot be an Aura Knight and an Aura Sage at the same time. Only a prince can be a knight and a sage at the same time. An Aura Guardian cannot train to be a knight or to be a sage. An Aura Guardian would be a knight or a sage, depending on his aura. Before I was an Aura Prince, I was an Aura Sage. The second and the most important thing for a knight and a sage to have to become a prince is obsession. Jane was taken aback after hearing that. Obsession? Jane inquired with a confused look. Yes, obsession. Ash clarified positively. The downfall of the ancient Aurarians is the fact that they lost their humanity. They lost touch of being human and started viewing themselves as beings higher than anyone that walks this earth. That was their downfall. An aura prince that has the powers and the abilities of a knight and sage must never lose touch of her humanity. So for the aura prince to remain grounded, they must have an obsession so severe that it can ground them to their humanity. Ash took a deep breath before staring Jane right on the eye. The day I became a prince is the day I realized that this world can burn in the fires of hell as long as Elena is happy and safe. Ash stated with a bright, somewhat crazed smile. For an aura prince, their obsession is their god, their reason for living, and their reason for protecting this world. For an aura prince, before and after me, our obsession is both our strength and our weakness, our anchor in humanity and our gateway to insanity. Obsession is the hubris of every prince, before and after me. With that piece said, Ash instructed Jane to continue her training. No more words were exchanged between the two for the entire night.